Hi, I'm Daniel, Audio Mocha, and I'm going to show you how you can set up your lights when pressing the same virtual button. Basically, one thing that I noticed when I was programming my lights originally is that whenever a groove has a big tom fill, a lot of my lights would stay off. But I wanted to make sure, like, I wanted to have something going on flashy then, just as flashy as my fills. But I didn't want to have all of the toms come in just on one light. So the crux of the problem was, how can I have how can I have the same button, like the same button in the virtual console activate alternating lights, as well as how can I have multiple MIDI notes respond to that same button, like send out the same MIDI signal. So we're going to go ahead and cover that right now. So for this, we're going to be creating two chasers, one for each light. So now we're going to hop back into QLC, and you may notice also that in the functions manager, it's getting kind of crowded from the past tutorials. So one thing that we can do is create a new folder so that we have a semblance of organization going on here. I'm going to set everything symbols related. All right, now we've got a bit more of an organized functions manager. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create two new chasers, one for each light. If you want a tutorial on how to create chasers, please refer to my past tutorial. Before making this chaser, hop into the virtual desk. We're going to fast forward through this part. Yeah, sometimes this new QLC tends to be a bit of a pain. Mine just crashed on me, so now I gotta open up back again. Ooh, alright, you learn something new every day. So basically what I did there, to create a chaser, I ended up highlighting and pressing Control while selecting my scenes. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to multi-select by holding down the Control button on my keyboard, and I selected Tom Left Flash and Tom Left Dark. I will click on Add a New Function, then Add New Chaser. So within our new chaser, I'm going to go ahead and name it Tom Left Chaser. Once again, I'm gonna set the run order to be single shot, so that all the steps are run through at once. I'm gonna set the fade out to per step, duration to per step, and in this case, I was gonna set up my toms as per beats, but I'm just gonna use time instead. The reason for that is I want my toms to flash for a very brief amount of time, since they're going very quickly in the tom fill. So whenever we're dealing with beats, we have to set the hold to a value of 1 or higher. It has to be a whole number. I don't want to set it for that long. So now I'm just going to set these holds for the flash. No, that's too many seconds. And I'm going to test out fading holding for 25 milliseconds, holding for 10. I'm going to do something similar with the tom right chaser, so I'm going to go ahead. We have two chasers, tom left chaser, tom right chaser. I'm going to multi-select those and create a new chaser with those chasers. I will call this the tom alternator. The next critical step is setting the duration, so I'll set the fade ins to 0. So that's already 0. The very crucial part here is that I'm going to set the hold to be infinity for both items. And in this case, the reason that we're setting this to infinities is so that we're going to be using what's called in the virtual console what's called a queue list, and we want to make sure that the chaser does not advance on its own until the next order. We're going to go ahead, go into the virtual console tab again, and this time I'm going to drag in a queue list. Now I'm going to open the function manager. Oh my god, not again! Now we're back at the virtual console. This software is pretty something, but it's free, so I'll take it. And it works pretty well. I mean, sometimes, but anyway, I dragged in the cue list onto the page of Virtual Console. So now I'm going to go ahead and enable edit mode. Click on our new cue list, and we see that it doesn't have an attached chaser. That will be right here. So I'm going to open the Functions Manager, and I'm going to drag the tom alternator into the cue list. We can see in our cue list now I've added the tom alternator chaser, and here in our cue list we can see we have the tom right chaser and the tom left chaser. I've tried adding these chasers themselves into a cue list, but a cue list only is able to handle one chaser, even if that chaser contains other chasers. So I'm going to see if this is working now. Alright, after dealing with some technical difficulty issues, we can see we have the cue list up here with the tom right chaser, the tom left chaser. Now, remember we added the infinity so that each step holds on till the next step, which will add our alternating function. We have our camera on showing my lights, and I'm going to click this next cue button. We see that one light flashed, the right light flashed. Next up, the left light. So if I keep clicking left and right, or rather if I just keep clicking next cue, we can see that our lights are alternating. Our next step is having our DAW do the step of triggering the next cue itself. So the challenge is going to be my drum plugin Jamsticks. Each tom obviously is going to have a different. It's going to correspond to a different MIDI note. It's going to send a different MIDI note each time. Each time part of my groove is activated, and whenever you program your drums, that's likely to be the case. But we're gonna want to make sure that every single MIDI note that corresponds to your tom is able to send out one MIDI signal, because QLC is only able to handle one external control per function. So one thing I'll show you. Cue list can have multiple controls. So we have the control next cue. We have the ability to set previous cue, play, stop, pause, stop, fade, side fader. We only really care about the next cue one. I'm going to go ahead and stop this. And I'm going to hop right back into Reaper. So the step that you want to do is you want to have some sort of MIDI note router. And the way that we do it in Reaper, there's a plugin that comes in with Remapper. If you're using a different DAW, here's what I'm basically going to do. I'm going to use a plugin to redirect MIDI notes, and I'm going to map every note that activates any tom to one single MIDI note after they're played by Jamsticks. In Reaper, that will require the use of a plugin that is available from Remapper. So if you don't have that installed, navigate to remapper.com and download and install it. If you already have it installed, go ahead and browse packages, and we're going to search for MIDI Remap. We're going to go ahead and click that and install. When I right click on it, it says reinstall v06. I'll go ahead and just leave that off, but go ahead and install that package. And next up, what you'll do, you're going to add the MIDI note remapper right after whatever plugin, synthesizer, virtual instrument, or even if you're just coming in from a device, you're going to want to use this. And here you can select which note to remap. So now we're in my old file where I already performed this MIDI remapping. So you can see that here I have multiple notes that I have set. So like in this case, I remap C4 to C#3. I have various things that are all mapped to different notes. Your results may vary in this case, but now I have everything pretty much everything mapping to one MIDI note. So now I will hop back. For this cue list, make sure that you're still in edit mode for the cue list that you added. The control is next cue. It should be listening on activate auto detection. And I'm going to go ahead, and in my case, I'll use C3. Make sure that we have it listening, that we have the external control listening for next cue, And I'll go ahead and activate in Reaper, so you can see it right here, C3. Now you can see that activated channel 177 in QLC. So now let me give it a try to playing. And right there, you just saw that the lights alternating with the toms. This is I had to go back to my old project since I ended up doing a whole lot of different work than this time around. It's a pretty simple procedure for QLiz. It's just one that takes a whole lot of grunt work. I showed you just a little bit of how it's done. Anyway, I hope that this tutorial has been helpful to you. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to drop them below in the comments. And once again, I think this is going to be the last tutorial in the tutorial series, unless you have anything else that you want me to cover. But for now, we'll just go ahead and call it a close. Yeah, I'm Daniel Flores, Audio Mocha, and yeah, it's been fun making this tutorial for you, and I hope this has been helpful. Have a good day.